Hello and welcome to another planning appeal case study video. I'm John Peters, and in this video I'm going to explain how we overcame a recent Lawful Development Certificate refusal by Bedford Borough Council for one of our clients. This planning appeal was to overcome the refusal to grant a certificate of lawful development to regularise the existing use of land for purposes incidental to the use of the dwelling that was refused by the local authority, Bedford Borough Council Planning Department. Our client was initially booked in for a free no obligation consultation to run through the refusal reasons that had been used by Bedford Borough Council and to evaluate if an appeal was viable or if an alternative option would be best suited. The free no obligation consultation, which took around 20 minutes, found that this case was viable for appeal to the Planning Inspectorate, taking the decision process away from Bedford Borough Council Planning Department. This case was refused by Bedford Borough Council for the following reasons. The proposed fails to demonstrate with sufficient information, evidence, the uses that are occurring for the relevant period of time, i.e. the garden use. Furthermore, also fails to demonstrate with sufficient information, evidence, the nature, scale, extent and intensity of the use, i.e. the garden use. And finally, the land to the east of the property does not form part of the curtilage of the two brewers. It is very common occurrence to see a refused lawful development certificate where the information and evidence has not been presented in a way so the local authority can grant the permission. This particular case refers to insufficient evidence provided and as such fails to meet the balance of probability to grant the permission. A lot of appeals for lawful development certificates relating to use that we deal with would not have been needed to reach this stage if only the applicant had submitted an application that included a planning statement and or statutory declarations along with a comprehensive detailed list of documents, information and evidence to reach the balance of probability. This case, the client had submitted their own produced documents and walked themselves into refusal by not knowing what the planning department were actually looking for. We see many refusals like this where the application is refused due to not meeting the balance of probability. The vast majority of these cases had no planning statement submitted that should have detailed how the application meets with the relevant legislation, additional detailing, the evidence that is being submitted to support the appeal and prove that it meets the balance of probability. Lawful Development Certificate applications for 10 and 4-year LDCs should be black and white with no grey areas. It's about meeting the balance of probability, as I keep saying. However, we do see refusals by local authorities that make assumptions, especially if it was an application and would be against policy. Some would say in these circumstances that the local authority planning officer had looked in to refuse opposed to following the Planning Practical Guidance (PPG) that states that the council has no evidence itself nor any form of others to contradict or otherwise make the application's version of events less than probable, then there is no good reason to refuse the application, provided however that the applicant's evidence alone is sufficiently precise and unambiguous. With planning appeals, experience matters, especially with lawful development certificates. Errors cannot be made, so attention to detail is absolutely paramount. Our specialist appeals team, who handle over 2.5% of all planning appeals in England and Wales that are currently produced and submitted, start by producing a comprehensive and robust appeals statement that is specific case covered, 18 pages and just over 6,300 words. It's important in a lawful development certificate appeal to detail in the appeal statement where the local authority failed and in their assessment of the case and how the application meets the relevant legislation. Additional detailing the evidence that is being submitted to support the appeal. Obviously, with the back catalogue we have of wins, we're able to use these cases and what the inspector said in them as additional argument to support the cases we're working on, especially where the precedent and other matters occur. Once an appeal statement is completed, we send the document to our client, asking them to check that they are happy for us to submit the case. If we need to add any additional information that the client may have forgotten previously to supply, it's done at this point, and then the case is then submitted. It's vitally important that all documents and responses are submitted on time throughout the process, as failure to do so will result in the appeal not being successful. Something we hear about often when people attempt an appeal for the first time themselves. Always ensure you use a professional who has considerable experience of appeals. It is worth asking them for some recent successful planning appeal case studies like you find on our website. Due to the large number of cases we represent, we have a dedicated team that liaises with the Planning Inspectorate on a daily basis. For this appeal, an independent planning inspector from the Planning Inspectorate visited the site on the 30th of August, and we are pleased to confirm that the appeal was upheld and permission granted on the 18th of September in a 7-page appeal decision notice. If you'd like to find out if we can help you with your planning appeal, complete our online form on our website www.planningappealsuk.com, and our UK support team will arrange for a free no obligation consultation with one of our planning appeal assessment professionals. Thank you for taking the time to watch this planning appeal case study video, and I look forward to producing another one very shortly. Thank you. Bye.